So these recipes that I'm sharing with you all, they have a more deeper meaning, a tradition for our family to do these sweets every Diwali. We come together as a family, my mom, my dad, and we all take part in making these, take turns, help each other. From a very young age, I started helping with rolling everything. And then as I got older, I started frying. So now I'm making it and I will teach my children. So it's like a tradition passed down through generations. Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. I am from Rio Claro. Today I'll be sharing my recipes for Barfi, Rasgula, Gulab Jamun and Kurma.
What are you doing first?
Okay, so here I have 2 cups of full cream milk powder. And to that I'm gonna add, well, I usually use fresh ginger, but I didn't get any, so we will work with the powdered ginger. There's 1 teaspoon and 1 teaspoon of ground elychee or cardamom. Add that in. Let's just go with 2 tablespoons of, so you just want to combine these and rub it together so that the powdered milk absorbs the liquid. If you have less liquid, you won't get the taste of the barfi because the cream is what flavors it as well. So you want to bring this together. It should form lumps at first, and as you keep working it in, it gets like fine breadcrumb texture. You could use heavy cream in place of the table cream if you don't have table cream.
Where you learn to make these sweets?
I started cooking at the age of 13, and everything that I know I learned from my mom and my grandmom. Right, so this is the texture you're looking for. Usually I go straight into passing it through a sieve, but to make it easier and quicker, I run it through the food processor, then to the sieves. You don't want to overload it, just half by half. I just want to sift this. See how easy it is? Then when it's clumpy, it tends to be more difficult to work with.
So is this the only type of barfi you make?
This is usually the base. So what you could do, you could add anything you like. You could add coconut and cherries, Oreo, pistachio. You could do fruit and nuts. A lot of different things you could add to it. This is just a base. So this is actually the base I use for coconut barfi as well. So I just toast my coconut and add it into this powdered mixture right before I add the thickened syrup to it. This is where a lot of the cream from earlier, this is majority of these is just the milk powder. So you want to work this through the sieve and get all of that.
A lot of people may not realize when they're eating barfi what exactly goes into making it.
A lot of hard work. It's a workout as well, so you burn any calories before you even eat it.
So as you're talking about making barfi, do you usually do this every year for Diwali?
I started doing this about 2 years ago, mainly doing orders. Usually I just make for the family. My neighbor requested one Diwali, she wanted Rasgula and Barfi. So I said, let me try making an advertising, and I got a lot of orders. Mainly these 4 items I get orders for. I also do coconut barfi, I do jalebi, a lot of other different Indian sweets. Ideally, I want to use a metal sieve for this, but I don't have one at hand right now. Okay, so after you finish sifting, it should look like this. So the next step, you want to make your sugar syrup. Usually we call it pag, that's the Indian word for it.
Right.
So you want to, I usually do a big batch, but today I just have 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, and I'm going to add 1 cup of water to that and let it boil until it reaches a thick consistency. Going to add 3 elychee pods or cardamom pods and make sure the sugar is completely dissolved. So I'm just going to add in a tablespoon of ghee or clarified butter. And I'm going to add the warm syrup directly on top of this so it melts in. So now we're going to do the rasgula. In here I have 2 cups of full cream milk powder. To that I'm going in with 2 tablespoons of ghee, 3 tablespoons of cream of wheat. I'm going to hydrate it with some regular water, 2 tablespoons. This helps soften the rasgula and soak in the syrup. Here I have 2 tablespoons of flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, ginger and cardamom or elychee. Just add that in there. And now I'm gonna add in this. Right, so I'm gonna combine these. When you're working with milk powders for barfi and rasgula, you want to use a plastic bowl. It tends to stick a lot less with plastic than metal. That's just something I noticed. The ghee that we add in here, it creates an oily surface, so now I'm gonna go in with regular full cream milk. You could use evaporated milk, but I prefer this. So add a little at a time. You're looking for a soft dough. You want it a little on the softer side because the milk will absorb the liquid and it will dry out if you need it too stiff. As it comes together like this, a moist, very moist dough, you rest it.
How long are you resting for?
About 2 minutes, not very long. You want to make sure it doesn't absorb too much milk, so you could always add back. If it starts cracking, it must be smooth like this. See?
Okay.
Like a pasty type of texture.
Okay. So what are we looking for to know that it's ready?
So you want to get this syrup really thick, but not too thick where it starts to thread. Must be a thick, sticky consistency. Little thicker than pancake syrup. Now we're going to roll them into balls to fry. You don't want to get the ball too big. You want to roll it to like half the size you want it to be because it doubles in size as it fries.
Okay.
So this is the texture. It absorbs a lot of the milk. It's not too soft or too hard. You just squeeze it together like this and then you form it into a ball. I don't even need to grease my hands because there's ghee in this and it isn't sticking to anything. It creates an oily residue. So this is basically what you're looking for. You want to roll it till it doesn't have much cracks on it. That way it doesn't open in the pot while it's frying. You can flatten it so and fry, or you could do it into a bowl. I try to work with gloves as much as I could when I'm making for orders. If I'm making for myself at home, I'm not going to use gloves. But for orders, I try to use gloves.
But how does it affect, the difference in feeling, the texture?
Yeah. So with the gloves, the dough, it slides off. So you don't really get that feel, the stickiness or like that. Yeah. Usually you grease your hands, warm it up, and then you go ahead and you roll them out.
Right.
So these gonna double in size and get pretty big when they soak up the syrup as well. So it ended up getting a little too thick. So what I'm doing here is adding a bit of water to get it back to the consistency. So if it gets too thick, don't worry, you don't have to throw it away. Just add a bit of water and let it go until it gets to your desired thickness. Let it cool down until all the bubbles settle. Where it isn't screaming hot, just warm. So just gonna you wanna add a little at a time. If you over add syrup, it will remain soft. Add it directly above the ghee and work it in. One of the reasons why I let the syrup cool, because you need to go in with your hands as well for this to get a feel of the texture. This is granulated sugar, but I'll leave it too long so it gets a bit brown. Right, so what you're looking for here, you wanna take a bit and do this with it. If it holds together without crumbling, then you're good to go, like this. If you're looking for a crumbly barfi, this is what you're looking for. If you want a more wholesome, kind of sticky texture, you add a bit more. I think this is good enough for me. You want to grease your tray, liberally grease your tray. You don't want it sticking. It already starts to set. You can go with as much or as little sprinkles you like. I don't like too much in it. If I'm making for orders, I add more, but this is just for home, so I'm not gonna add a lot because I don't like too much of it. So while it's still not set properly, you wanna score it. See, it's already getting hard. Score it to whatever size you want. You could use a regular knife as well. The oil shouldn't be hot. There shouldn't be any much bubbles forming around it as yet.
How long would this fry in the oil?
On very slow heat until it gets cool and brown. It will turn for itself and float on top of the oil when it's ready.
Okay.
You want to give it the occasional stir so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. If you go and add this in screaming hot oil, it'll just get brown and won't cook. See how it's already sticking? So you want to gently turn them. And you want to put this in enough oil where you could just move your spoon and it moves. So I was speaking about earlier, this one didn't roll out smoothly. So you see how they're beginning to crack a bit? So if you're using your bare hands, you get a better feel and you roll it more smoothly. This won't happen. So this one didn't roll smoothly and you see how it's cracking?
Right.
So you don't want that to happen. You want to make sure you roll it smooth. It's going to be really soft when you take it out firstly. After it cools, it hardens and gets a crunchy exterior until you add it to the syrup. 2 cups of brown sugar, 3 cups of water, this syrup don't need to be thick. As it comes to a boil and it thickens slightly, you turn off the heat and let it cool till it's warm and add in the rasgula to it. Right, so now we're going to start on the gulab jamun. In here I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To that I'm going to add a cup of milk powder, full cream milk powder. Then I'm going in with some nutmeg, cinnamon, cardamom and ginger powder. Then I'm going in with half stick of butter, and then we need to add some baking powder as well. A 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. That's just like a pinch, that much. Before adding in any liquid, you want to work the butter into the flour. You can also use ghee, but I prefer to use the butter. So it came up to a rolling boil, so I'm going to turn it off the heat and let it cool down before adding the rasgula to it. If you add it to the hot syrup, it will burst, it might crumble, so the heat will further cook it, and you don't want it to cook too much. A 1/4 cup of condensed milk to give it some sweetness. You could add more condensed milk. That's just as sweet as I would like it. You want to work that in there as well. So it's the same texture you're looking for like when we did the rasgula. It's a soft dough. So now I'm going in with some full cream milk, just a little at a time.
Good.
So this is the texture you're looking for, a very soft, not too soft though. So it isn't pure milk now, there's flour in there, so it won't absorb as much liquid as the pure powder milk. Right, so we're gonna do the dough for the kurma. So in here I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, half stick of butter. Then I have a 1/4 teaspoon, well, half teaspoon each. This is nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger and elychee. Just gonna add that in. Combine these together. You wanna work quickly with the butter in this. You don't want the butter to start melting out. You want to get it into the dough, and then when the dough is combined, you add it into the fridge and let it sit there until you're ready to fry them. Going in with some full cream milk. You want to add as you go, add a little at a time. So we're going to start rolling out the gulab jamun for frying. Make a log, just pinch out a piece like this. It's according to the size you want, big or small. You just form them. You see how soft it is? That. Form them into a log shape like this.
So now that you roll them out, time to fry.
Yeah, time to fry them. You want to fry them to golden brown. The heat is a bit too high, so I turn off the stove there. When the oil comes back down to temperature, I'll light it back.
So you just turn all the syrup in.
Add all the syrup, a little mix, so make sure all, see the little bubbles forming. That means they already start soaking up the syrup. It takes a while to soak, so I'll cover it and leave it. I'm going to take them out now. So we're going to roll out the kurma now. See how tough it is to work with compared to the other dough.
And earlier we were talking about some people's preference with it being crunchy or...
Some people prefer more crunchier brown kurma. That's my personal preference, but not all prefer it like that. They prefer a regular golden brown, simple, crunchy. That's basically what a kurma is. But my family likes it brown, very brown and crunchy. Put them in one by one to avoid clumping together. And to keep the kurma straight, you want to leave it in the pot without touching it for a while till it hardens a bit, and then you can go ahead and turn them. Side profile. As you can see there.
So what is that we're looking at?
There's the layers. It's separating and creating flaky layers. See that? How it's forming like a thread? That's what you're looking for.
That's how you know it's ready?
Gently turn them. It's going to look like this at first, but as it cools, it will start getting this snowy white coating over them. And that's pretty much it. As it dries down, it will be more powdery. Depending on how much of coating you want on them, you add accordingly. Don't go with too much because it will take very long to dry out and actually get to this texture.
So Chelsea, if someone wants to order some of your sweets, how could they go about doing that?
You could contact me via call or WhatsApp on 332-7664, or you could check out my Facebook page, Charles Sweet Treats, Instagram, Charles_sweet_treats, both Instagram and TikTok.